It all began with murmurs, which swiftly descended into mayhem throughout the streets of Atlanta's reality TV. Timelines were overflowing. People were conversing, and fans were in shock when Jasmine abruptly returned to the scene. She apparently faced Kirk and Rasheeda in person after years of conflict, heartache, and unresolved business, and the energy was nothing short of combustible. According to some, it was about a new type of relational dynamic that left everyone speechless, rather than merely the past. Before anyone could catch their breath, the word poly began to gain popularity, and Yandy's name was also dragged into the fray. Rumor had it that Jasmine preferred clarity over turmoil, but as old grievances and new charges clashed, the Frost family was once again in the epicenter of the greatest storm in hip-hop and love. Rasheeda's patience was wearing thin, Kirk tried to remain composed, and the presence of Yandy just fueled the flames. Divergent views erupted on social media. Was Jasmine going too far, or was she finally telling the truth? The only thing that was definite was that this meeting was going to change because there were so many conflicting emotions and alliances disintegrating. The tension in the Atlanta studio was so intense that it could be sliced with a knife. Everyone was aware of the peculiar combination of awkward quiet and repressed feelings that were about to explode. In the midst of all of this, with cameras rolling and producers chatting behind the scenes, stood Jasmine, composed and obviously prepared to release years of repressed rage. Her name had already been connected to the tale of Kirk and Rasheeda, but this time it felt different. This was about unresolved business that would not be buried. It was no longer about gossip. The air altered as Jasmine entered. Rasheeda's gaze was fixed on her, memories weighing heavily on her unreadable face. With a discomfort that only someone with history could feel, Kirk shifted uneasily in his chair. Before speaking, Jasmine inhaled deeply. Her voice was steady yet shaking with emotion. The room was silent for a while as she remarked, "I didn't come here to start anything, but I think it's time we stop pretending like everything's fine when it's clearly not." Even the background sounds of buzzing phones and muttering. Producers appeared to disappear. Nay. An attempt to maintain her poise, Rasheeda leaned forward. "What are you trying to say, girl?" Jasmine shook her head, saying, "We've already had that conversation if this is about the past." "No, it goes beyond the past. It concerns the present moment." Her voice became irritated. "People are talking about this new setup, this poly situation, and my name keeps coming up like I'm part of it. I'm fed up with being forced into something I didn't agree to." Kirk had the appearance of wanting to vanish. He avoided making eye contact with either of the women and wiped his brow. "Jasmine, isn't your name being dragged by anyone?" He replied softly. "People just say stuff online." Unimpressed, Jasmine crossed her arms and said, "We can't control that. Interestingly, I only appear to trend when you guys' names are mentioned. Coincidence? I don't believe so." Rasheeda exhaled slowly, obviously suppressing her urge to speak. "Look, we've put a lot of effort into restoring our harmony." Her voice fluctuated between tiredness and annoyance. "We don't need this mess right now." Jasmine's eyes were filled with silent rage as she retorted, "But if you're implying something happened, you better be clear about it." "I'm implying," she continued slowly, "that people keep fabricating stories to make it look like I'm trying to gain influence. As if I were the antagonist of a story I didn't even write." The producers looked at each other anxiously. The emotional weight in the room was palpable, and the tension was genuine. At last, Kirk looked up, his voice attempting to mediate. "This isn't about bad guys. Closure is the key. We can discuss it if that's what you want. However, we cannot continue to do this in front of cameras." Jasmine laughed dryly. "Funny, because when I was being humiliated, the cameras never stopped you guys." There was a brief pause that was filled with unsaid memories, including past interviews, social media taunts, and that notorious plot that had tied the three of them in a web of love, treachery, and public scrutiny. Rasheeda got up and paced slowly as the crew shifted uneasily. "You know what's painful?" She spoke softly but tremblingly as she started. "I made an effort to move on. I made an effort to forgive." Jasmine's face softened for a moment. "But every time I think we're over it, your name reappears like a ghost we can't shake." "Rasheeda, I didn't decide to be that ghost. That's the way things are in this world. People are drawn to and thrive on drama. Kirk appeared obviously exhausted as he remained seated. He whispered, "We all made mistakes." Jasmine turned to him quickly and said, "But this ain't the way to fix them." "So Kirk, what's the way? Acting? Behaving as though you didn't consider both perspectives at the time?" Her words reverberated over the silent set. Even the cameras appeared to pause for a moment before continuing to record in silence. Rasheeda's tone changed from one of rage to one of vulnerability as she stopped pacing and faced Jasmine. "Do you honestly believe that I didn't experience anything that you did?" She paused, her voice shaking slightly, and said, "I was there too, hurting, embarrassed, trying to keep my family together while everyone had an opinion." "Jasmine, you shared in that suffering, if you desired to be or not." Jasmine's steely exterior faltered as she gulped deeply. "I understand," she said quietly. "This is the reason I came here today. To clean the air, not to fight. Because I'm sick of having my identity defined by a plot that no longer accurately represents me, regardless of what others may say." However, everyone was taken aback by an unexpected voice from the corner before the situation could calm down. Yandy had just entered, her face displaying a mix of astonishment and irritation. "What's happening here?" She looked around and inquired. With a look of sheer tiredness, Rasheeda turned to face her. "I leave for 5 minutes and it feels like World War III in here." "It's a long story, girl." Upon glancing between Kirk and Jasmine, Yandy sensed the emotional intensity instantly. She folded her arms and said, "So this is really happening." Jasmine sighed. "I assumed this was all online chatter." "It should have been, but now it is. Apparently, social media is no longer where reality exists." Yandy shook her head. "Well, this is precisely the reason why individuals are unable to go on. Too many unresolved issues and insufficient genuine dialogue." Rasheeda nodded slowly, but anxiety was still visible in her eyes. "Perhaps. However, some discussions have a price." Yandy smiled slightly knowingly. "Yes, but it costs even more to avoid them." The atmosphere changed a little. It was still filled with history, but less antagonistic. Kirk got to his feet, attempting to gain command of the situation. "Perhaps this is a good thing," he remarked steadily. Jasmine glanced at him with an unreadable expression, saying, "Maybe this is what we needed, to stop acting like none of this ever happened." "And what comes next?" Quietly, she inquired. "We all simply leave as if it didn't exist?" Nobody responded. Instead, the years of remorse, miscommunication, and the high cost of being in the spotlight were expressed in quiet rather than words. Outside, there was a soft rumble of thunder, the sort of sound that goes well with a movie. Despite everyone's desire for calm, the storm was still building inside, and it was obvious that peace would not be readily achieved. Everything. The tension in the studio increased, permeating every nook and cranny until it became difficult to breathe. Rasheeda gently dropped back into her chair, letting out a breath that seemed to have been held for years, while Jasmine crossed her arms, her face trapped between defiance and hurt. Kirk stood in the center, looking from one of the two women to the other as though he were attempting to find a middle ground in a conflict zone he had already initiated. But before anyone could say anything more, the harsh astonishment in Yandy's voice cut through the silence. "So, this is the subject of all that internet chatter?" In the end, folks weren't exaggerating. Rasheeda gave her a weary glance. "Do you think I intended for this to be a scene, girl? I'm worn out." Jasmine's eyes glowed with emotion. "Every time I try to move forward, something drags me right back. Additionally, I'm labeled messy or resentful whenever I attempt to defend myself. It seems like I'm the issue regardless of what I do." With a calm yet sharp tone, Yandy folded her arms. "Perhaps more than one person is the issue. Perhaps that's why none of you ever truly closed this chapter." Her remarks were laced with reality. Everything has just been sitting there, festering. Kirk shook his head slowly as he looked down. He acknowledged that while he might be correct, some wounds don't close when everyone keeps reopening them. With a powerful yet calm voice, Jasmine took a step closer. "Kirk, it's not about reopening wounds. It has to do with recognition. People behave as though I suddenly showed up and caused mayhem, but you are aware of how things actually transpired. I was drawn into this story even though I didn't ask for it. While discussing whether to step in or let the emotional tempest unfold, the producers talked off camera. Yandy's eyebrows went up. Look, I understand. The entire discussion about polyamorous relationships had the internet buzzing. However, if people claim that you are now in some sort of open setup and Jasmine's name is constantly being mentioned, that is no longer merely rumors. It is now a headline. No longer merely rumors. It is now a headline. Rasheeda's voice became stern. And that's precisely the reason I'm annoyed. A rumor is taken and made into a circus. She turned abruptly to face Jasmine. One small thing about open marriage, and all of a sudden, I'm the poster girl for something I never signed up for. Do you think I enjoy having your name associated with ours once more? You don't believe that will make my previous ache go away? Jasmine tried not to show it, but her lips quiver a little. I believe you still blame me for your suffering, even though it's possible that we were all caught in the same storm. The words were heavy and persistent, hanging in the air like smoke. Kirk gave his temples a rub. You both have a point, but nothing is being resolved by this. Although we cannot alter other people's speech, we can alter our own reactions. Yandy nodded slightly. At last, something reasonable, she muttered to herself. Jasmine wasn't finished, though. React? Kirk, do you understand how it feels to be accused of being a part of this new arrangement? I've started my life over in the hopes of moving on, and then all of a sudden, one plot point pulls me back. Rasheeda's jaw became tense. And can you imagine what it's like to have your marriage questioned all the time? To awaken to outsiders disputing your love, your commitment, and your decisions? I've put in too much effort to be treated like a meme once more. Both women stood there for a moment, reflecting each other's weariness. Similar scars, different experiences. Kirk observed silently, his silence betraying the weight of his past transgressions. With a sigh, Yandy gently shook her head. You're surprised at how much you two sound alike. Both of you are exhausted, battling spirits, and attempting to keep your names safe. The crew moved as a brief silence descended. Jasmine's tone grew softer. Yandy, you might be correct. Perhaps that's why this still hurts so much. Rasheeda didn't answer right away, her face aloof as she reminisced about restless nights, humiliation in front of others, and the never-ending task of acting as though nothing was wrong. However, an aide with a tablet came in just as things were starting to settle down. She responded tremblingly, I apologize for interrupting, but a new post just went up on the internet. The whole group froze as someone said, There's footage from the event last weekend, the one where Kirk was allegedly spotted with Jasmine. Kirk's eyes grew wide. What video? With a defensive tone, he inquired. Jasmine appeared perplexed. What are you discussing? I wasn't present at all. Yandy's face darkened as she took the tablet and began to scroll. Well, it doesn't look good. She turned the computer around and displayed the shaky video of a man who looked like Kirk conversing with a woman who had the same hair and build as Jasmine. Someone uploaded a clip. It's blurry, but people are already convinced it's you, Jasmine. There were already a ton of allegations, hashtags, and comments on the internet. Rasheeda's expression froze. Whoa, she whispered. Kirk lifted his hands in frustration, saying, Just when I thought we were having a real moment. She isn't even there. Jasmine drew closer, her tone piercing. Look at that angle. Look at the lighting. People see what they want to see. I warned you that this would occur. Whatever I do, I'm always connected to your mess. As more notifications flooded in, Yandy's phone buzzed once again. It's spreading quickly, she stated somberly. It's already being posted on blogs. The headlines are crazy. Rasheeda turned aside and muttered to herself, Here we go again. Her hands trembled a little as she made an effort to remain calm. Kirk stepped up and spoke quietly. I promise that's not her, baby. I wouldn't lie to you about this, she said, staring at him with fatigued and incredulous eyes. You've said that previously as well. The ensuing hush was deafening. Jasmine shook her head and let out a deep exhale. I came here for precisely this reason. To break this pattern. But it feels like I'm stuck in it no matter what. She snatched up her purse, obviously finished. Yandy moved ahead of her. Stay put. Leaving won't make this better. Jasmine stopped and glared at her, saying, If you leave now, people will think it's guilt. I'm just meant to stand here and let folks bring up my name once more then? Yandy gave a shrug. Silence sometimes creates more noise than denial. Before the story can control you, you must control it. And how exactly are we supposed to do that when the internet already made up its mind? Murmured Rasheeda, still terrified. Yandy gave her a determined, silent stare. By doing what none of you ever do, which is to get together and speak in public, without the filters or edits. Kirk nodded slowly as insight filled his eyes. Perhaps she is correct, he remarked. Jasmine gazed at him incredulously. After everything, do you want me to sit next to you guys again? Kirk looked her in the eye. Perhaps that's the only way to put a stop to it. The idea persisted, dangerous but oddly alluring. It seemed for the first time that they might truly be able to control the turmoil, but none of them was prepared for the price of that transparency. The slight sound of phone notifications nearby served as a reminder to everyone that, in this society, the drama never truly ends. It simply changes as the tension boiled beneath the surface. The city was already bustling in the morning. Hundreds of sites repeated, reanalyzed, and amplified the previous night's video, which went viral overnight. Everybody told the story in a different way. The internet had transformed rumors into a frenzy. Some said that Kirk and Jasmine had resumed their covert affair, while others stated that Rasheeda was playing along for clout. Still others swore that this was all part of a poly-relationship experiment. Rasheeda sat numbly at the window of her Atlanta house, browsing through her phone. The remarks were harsh. Once more, people questioned her marriage, her choices, and her sense of self-worth. Kirk stood a few steps away and attempted to talk. You need to stop reading that mess, baby. She didn't glance up. They don't know us. That's the issue. They believe they do. Her voice broke, and she put the phone down while massaging her temples. And we keep giving them reasons to. I feel like I can't even breathe without someone making a headline out of it. The doorbell rang at that moment. Kirk hesitantly looked in its direction. Who is it? The sound of Yandy's voice came from outside before he could move. Kirk groaned and opened the door, saying, It's me. Open up, we need to talk. With a folder full of printed screenshots and social media conversations, Yandy entered. It has exploded, she stated bluntly. Rasheeda scowled and said, The blogs will run their own version if you don't say something soon. You mean that they haven't done so yet? The papers were spread out on the table by Yandy. Take a look at these remarks. Half of them believe Kirk has been playing both sides once more, while the other half believe Jasmine was set up. Additionally, a whole thread claims that the three of you are participating in some sort of contemporary relationship experiment. Like, really? Kirk gave his face a rub. People enjoy drama. To create a story, they will twist anything. With a serious tone, Yandy leaned forward. Then tell them another story. Command the story. Just the three of you sit down. Not some clumsy reunion arrangement. Something quiet, something unadulterated. People must perceive the truth, not conjecture. She caught Rasheeda's attention. Do you truly believe that Jasmine would consent to that? Yandy's phone buzzed as if it were synchronized. She raised an eyebrow and looked down. Let's talk about the devil. She texted me just now. Jasmine, on the opposite side of town, was pacing her living room while holding her phone to her ear. I'm not sure if I can do that, Yandy. Her tone seemed worn out rather than angry, as if she had been fighting for too long. Every time I get near them, it turns into drama. Through the speaker came the powerful yet composed voice of Yandy. I understand, but it's not just about them. You are trying to clear your name. You're giving the noise the advantage if you remain silent. Jasmine stopped and looked at the TV, where the same clip was being rerun with inflated comments on a gossip show. They claim that I staged the situation to garner publicity. Hey, I wasn't even there. How do you protect yourself from an unrealized threat? By showing up, said Yandy, before someone else does it for you, and speaking your truth. There was a long pause before Jasmine let out a breath. All right, However, I'm not doing it to preserve Rasheeda or Kirk. I do it for myself. A few hours later, the trio sat in a darkened studio space intended for a private interview. The tension was more noticeable than the actual air. Rasheeda's knees were crossed, her eyes averted, but her face composed. Jasmine sat across from them, poised and composed but obviously cautious, while Kirk sat next to her, hands clenched tightly. The interviewer started out quietly. I appreciate everyone's presence. This latest video has gone viral on the internet. Everyone is curious about what's actually happening. Rasheeda was the first to speak, her tone steady yet quiet. What's happening is fatigue. We've had enough of our lives being reduced to clickbait. Although they don't understand half of what we've gone through, folks talk as though they know everything. After giving a nod, the interviewer turned to face Jasmine. Jasmine, how about you? Which side are you on? She took a deep breath. I'm also exhausted. Fed up with being portrayed as the bad guy whenever something involving the Frosts occurs. Sure, I've made mistakes, but I've taken responsibility for them. I wasn't there, so that video that everyone is talking about isn't me. However, when someone spots a single shadow in dim lighting, I'm thrust back into the narrative. I'll say it again. That wasn't her, Kirk said softly. Before we could even breathe, it took over the internet. I'm not sure who it was. The interviewer bent closer. An open marriage or some kind of understanding between the three of you is also being discussed. Is there any truth to that? Rasheeda gave a sour laugh. An agreement? The only thing we know is that humans enjoy making up stories. Although we've had problems, we're handling them like adults. There is nothing poly about this place. And if there was, it's nobody's business, Jasmine remarked quietly. However, since everyone is inquiring, I'm not associated with Kirk. Time frame. The interviewer, obviously enjoying the drama, nodded. What about the conflict with Yandy that keeps coming up? After standing behind the camera, Yandy moved forward. That's what occurs when viewpoints become news stories. Although we had a disagreement, it wasn't that serious. People on the internet made it into something it wasn't. Emotions began to surface as the interview went on. With a genuine tone, Jasmine turned to face Rasheeda. Look, I'm aware that I injured you years ago, and I don't dislike you, even though we might never be friends. I really detest getting enmeshed in an unending story. Rasheeda's face relaxed a little. I also don't hate you. I simply never found a solution. I continued to act as though nothing was wrong, but perhaps a part of me never recovered. The pause was weighty and prolonged. Kirk broke the stillness with his voice as he looked between them. Perhaps this marks the end. Perhaps this is how we should proceed. For an instant, it seemed as though something genuine was taking place. Not for the cameras or for influence, but for the sake of peace. Even the staff appeared to notice it, as evidenced by their softer smiles and calmer motions. However, the producer whispered something into the interviewer's earpiece just as the tension was starting to subside. His face changed, and he turned back to face the three. We apologize, but we recently learned that a new post is trending. Apparently, an eyewitness claims to have seen Kirk and Jasmine together once more yesterday night. Chaos swept through the room. Jasmine's eyes grew wide with shock. What? That isn't feasible. I met Yandy and immediately went home. Rasheeda slapped the table with her hand. I'm finished. I can't do this any longer. Kirk got to his feet, exasperated. This is absurd. What's going on in real time? Despite the interviewer's best efforts, the harm had already been done. Rumor and truth had clashed once more, and no one could tell which was louder. Andy's phone was constantly buzzing with notifications. It's all over, she murmured softly. They're spinning it again already. Suddenly, it became brutally evident that peace is never lasting in the realm of love and hip-hop as the cameras continued to roll and the internet erupted in new chaos. The truth is merely another plot point that needs to be changed. The tension didn't simply go away after the tumultuous studio interview. Rather, it intensified. In a matter of hours, soundbites and snippets were being circulated on all possible gossip platforms. Every breath, glance, and pause between Jasmine, Kirk, and Rasheeda was being examined by fans, bloggers, and even verified accounts. It was a wildfire and nobody was able to put out it. One fan said on Twitter, "Jasmine playing victim again? Same story every season." Another said, "Rasheeda's eyes said everything. She don't believe Kirk for a second." Later that evening, Rasheeda sat in her living room with her face illuminated by the light from her phone. She read the remarks in silence, not crying, just tired. Rubbing the back of his neck, Kirk entered. "You continue to read that stuff?" he inquired quietly. She put the phone down and groaned instead of answering immediately. "Kirk, I'm not bothered by the remarks. It's the reality that I'm no longer sure what to believe. Whenever we attempt to mend something, a new mess appears." His eyes were heavy as he sat across from her. "You believe I did something once more." With a steady yet icy tone, she gazed at him. Kirk fell back in despair and said, "I think the past has a long shadow, and you can't outrun it if you keep standing in the same light. I can't alter people's opinions, Rash. I can only continue to show up." There was silence until someone knocked on the door. Once more stuck in the midst of the storm, it was Yandy, she stated as she entered, gripping her phone like a ticking time bomb. "We need to talk." This only got worse. Jasmine is now active. Rasheeda raised her eyebrows. "What is she?" After setting the phone on the table, Yandy hit the play button. When Jasmine emerged on TV, she was obviously upset but calm. She addressed the thousands of people watching, saying, "I'm sick of everyone lying on me. It's been too long since I spoke. Kirk wasn't with me last night. I don't give a damn what people think. The video that they are disseminating is outdated. I will no longer allow anybody to change my story." The live stream was inundated with both positive and negative remarks. Yandy turned to face Rasheeda. She might benefit from this, but it might potentially cause further problems. More than clarity, people enjoy confrontation. Kirk hid his face in his hands. "Dude, we can't win with the internet." Jasmine's tone changed a few minutes later. "And let's be honest, everyone wants to speak about Kirk and me. Yes, things did get complicated at one point. However, that woman is no longer me. Additionally, whatever he and Rasheeda have is private. All I desire is serenity." Rasheeda let out a slow exhale. "That's at least what she said." Yandy nodded. "Perhaps it's time for you to say something as well. Not through shadow or blogs, but with your own words. Take a seat and tell the truth." Rasheeda took another look at the phone. As though testing the term, she whispered, "Truth. The truth is not neat, but perhaps others should see the mess." With resolve in her eyes, she got to her feet. "Yandy, set it up. Tomorrow." The scene was less elaborate the following day, with no phony energy or theatrical lighting. While the cameras silently rolled, Rasheeda sat by herself on a couch. "People think they know my story," she said in a quiet yet assured tone. "They have witnessed the altercations, the sobs, and the news reports. However, they fail to notice the work, the genuine discussions, and the late nights spent attempting to mend what has gone wrong. Kirk and I have both erred. I've erred, but we're not hiding, at least." She hesitated for a while, looking down, and then went on. "This has nothing to do with defending anyone. It's about refusing to let other people tell your story. I've discovered that choosing peace over chaos via forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. And I'm going for tranquility right now. Social media erupted once more following the interview, but this time something changed. Supporting words were posted by fans who praised Rasheeda for being honest. For once, the internet commotion wasn't only drama, there was also empathy. One tweet said, "This is the most real I've seen Rasheeda in years." Another added, "Growth looks good on her." Jasmine, in the meantime, shared a video of Rasheeda's sit-down with the straightforward yet impactful caption, "Respect." Kirk also posted it, although he merely included a heart emoji. It was something, even though it wasn't a big statement. The Globe saw the chaos play out when the program aired that weekend, like a masterpiece of film. Tears, tension, truth, and transformation. Beyond the theatrics, however, something uncommon occurred: accountability. In the last scene, Jasmine reconnected with Rasheeda and Kirk, but this time there were no cameras present, just genuine discussion. Silently, Jasmine remarked, Perhaps this was meant to be. Perhaps the chaos was simply the universe's way of making us mature. Rasheeda grinned a little. Perhaps. Or perhaps we simply became weary of our adversaries. Kirk muttered a laugh. In any case, I'd rather have peace than pressure. The commotion, the gossip, and the storm were all gone when the camera zoomed out after they exchanged a quick, awkward, but sincere chuckle. It seemed like a human moment. Uncooked, flawed but authentic. And for that short period of time, the Frost family, Jasmine, and even Yandy experienced a delicate sort of peace. Despite the fact that fans would continue to speculate, blogs would continue to spin, and headlines would continue to yell. Perhaps not resolution, but a truce. And that's the closest one can go to serenity in the world of hip-hop and love. A crazy ride, isn't it? Tension, emotion, and a modicum of healing were all present in this chapter of love and hip-hop Atlanta, from explosive clashes to unexpected truths. However, the current query is it truly over? Or is this merely the quiet before a storm? Because let's face it, peace never lasts long when it comes to Kirk, Rasheeda, Jasmine, and Yandy. Fans are already expressing their disapproval at this abrupt truce on the internet, while others think we're seeing a real breakthrough. What do you think then? Is this the beginning of a new chapter in the Frost family's history, or is it just another reality TV hoax that is about to blow up? Will another startling revelation upend everything? Or may Jasmine really be finished with the drama? And what about Yandy? Does she genuinely want to assist, or is she just stirring things up to get attention? We would love to hear your opinions, so please share them in the comments section. Do you believe Rasheeda was able to find closure at last, or did she choose to remain silent? Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more exclusive updates, and enable your alerts if you enjoy delving deeply into this type of behind-the-scenes craziness. This will ensure that you don't miss any of the latest developments from Atlanta's hip-hop and love scenes. Your thoughts are valued here, and believe me when I say that the upcoming episode of this actual soap opera may demonstrate that no one's narrative is truly over.